Yeah. Good evening. Are you guys ready for a great show? All right. Happy New Year to you, to all of you. How many of you are here for the first time? Wow, that's wonderful. So let me give you a quick story and then tell you that you should become a member of TIE, which is a non-profit organization. I sent an email to a guy called Sulaiman Khan. He's the founder of a company called Tiny Co. in San Francisco, pretty young guy. And Mark Anderson is on his board, so that should tell at least he may be doing something revolutionary or wonderful. So I sent him an email to invite him for a panel for mobile on February 9th. And then he replied to me that he had a conflict, but at the same time, he was very thankful to TIE. He said, I was a TIE member in Seattle, and that's the reason I'm an entrepreneur today. So that's the reason. So all those who are not members, so please make sure you become member. It's very cheap. It's 30 cents a day. It's just like, pay as you go, but you have to pay $100. Just one time credit card swipe, and Patricia can help you. So anyway, I'll get to that. So before we get started with the program, I'd like to tell you quickly a little bit about TIE. So first of all, usually this introduction is done by our executive director, Kiran Malhotra, but she is in San Francisco today at an event by one of our sponsors, IBM. So obviously we have to keep them happy because these sponsors support us financially to bring these wonderful programs to you. And so the TIE was, so on behalf of Kiran, I would like to welcome you all again. So TIE was founded in 1992 by a group of highly accomplished professionals and entrepreneurs who happen to be from South Asia, and hence the name Indus Entrepreneur, and which obviously what it means today is ideas, talent, ideas, and enterprise. Sorry, I haven't even had a drink and looks like I'm already losing. So, and TIE, since its inception in 1992, has grown to over 57 chapters worldwide in 14 countries. Right from, can you imagine, we have a chapter in Stockholm, in UK, Germany, and in Asia, in Australia, Singapore, Malaysia, and a number of cities in India and Pakistan, as well as in North America, in Canada and US. So, and I think it's the only organization which is run very heavily by volunteers, just like me, our co-chairs, panelists, a lot of the folks who are helping you at the registration, etc. And a very minimal staff with like Patricia and Kiran, etc. So which is, I think, is a great source of pride for us. And the mission of TIE is to foster entrepreneurship. We used to have a banner here. It looks like we are going under renovation, so we don't have it. So our mission is to cultivate and nurture the ecosystem of entrepreneurship and free economies everywhere, as we believe that that's the single most powerful instrument for creating prosperity. TIE has 4 constituencies. One is charter members. Charter members are, again, these are highly accomplished professionals, entrepreneurs, corporate executives, venture capitalists, so who become charter members on an invitation basis and invited, and then We have, I think we should have a number of them in the room. Can I see some hands for the chart members over here? So as you can see, a lot of these folks, so please make sure you can connect with them after the program, and a lot of them can turn out to be your advisors, mentors, investors, etc. if you're trying to start a new company. Second constituency is members, which is open to anyone, like I said earlier, so I would encourage all of you to become members. Third constituency is our sponsors like IBM, a lot of venture capital firms, legal firms, the consulting firms, and all these corporations who help foster entrepreneurship. And the last but not the least is our volunteers. As I said, volunteers are a big backbone for our organization. Now what do we do? So one of the key flagship programs we do is TiCon. TiCon, has anyone been to TiCon? Okay, number of them. So TiCon, let me do a quick quiz then. So when was the first TiCon held? Okay, that's wrong. Anyone remembers?
94?
94, that's the correct one. Okay, anyone has been to each and every TiCon? None. Okay, I'm the only one. So I've been to every TiCon, and I'll tell you a reason in a minute. TiCon is held in May of every year. It's a 2-day event, and I think it's now it's one of the largest conference for entrepreneurs. Last year we had about 4,000 people attended. I know Bruno attended. So it's in May this year. I think you might see the date. So please make sure you can attend that if you have time, because I think it's I've been going to TiCon since they started in '94. In fact, I was a volunteer at that time, and it's really very inspirational, and the amount of energy you can get not only from entrepreneurs, plus you meet all kinds of folks, venture capitalists, angel investors. I met my own angel investor for the first company I started in '96, a security software company, right at TiCon, just by accident, and who provided seed capital. So that's why I was saying in the beginning, for those who are aspiring entrepreneurs, so you never know. You come to these events, you meet someone, and it'll turn into something else. So that's why I think I would again encourage for you to become a member. And then one more thing about TiCon is last year in I think October, Worth magazine announced that TiCon was one of the top 10 conferences along with World Economic Forum and TED. So which was I think a great accomplishment for a conference which is organized by almost 500 volunteers. It just started a couple of weeks ago, and it's all organized by volunteers, and it'll be in May. So I think it's really a source of great pride for all the volunteers who have been helping through since '94 when the first TiCon was held. So other programs, in addition to TiCon, the other programs we have are very industry specific, like cloud today. So we have, we kind of look at the trends and what is important for entrepreneurs. So around that we form our programs. And I forgot to mention that I'm chair for the programs, and so that's why last year we looked at all other programs, and we refreshed the ones with what's going on in the market. So we have cloud now, social media, mobile, life sciences, and energy. Those are the 4 sectors. And then we have a number of specific programs like Thai Women's Forum, Thai Growth Company Forum, where mid to later stage companies can come, and there are panels and the discussions on those. At the same time, we have a Thai Institute also, which is, again, these are all around providing value to the entrepreneurs and our stakeholders, basically. And some of the new programs which you need to know, which are kind of getting now not that new, but one of them is Thai Angels. We started in August of 2010, and I don't see, are there any steering committee members here? I don't see any. So this was started in August 2010, and this is, by the way, if you have any friends or yourself, if you're trying to raise seed capital, you can go to Thai website, thaisv.org. There's a Thai Angel section, and you can apply. So there's a process. It's a 3-step process. First, you apply and provide your information, and then after that, if it's screened by there is a quick screening. Then 8 or 10 companies are invited for in-person screening in front of a steering committee. Some of them are domain experts, venture capitalists, and very successful entrepreneurs. And then out of that, 3 companies are selected who present in front of anywhere from 60 to 80 angel investors, and that's held on third Monday of every month. So every month, and we have had every month on an average, at least, since I'm part of steering committee as well, one company has been funded since, so a number of them, and I've gone to raise venture capital also. So that's one program, just if you want to let your friends or yourself, if you're looking for seed capital. Second program we started last year was Type Startup Pitch Fest, which we'll have shortly, which is a program basically randomly entrepreneurs are selected and they can come and do an elevator pitch for 2 minutes. And so which has been very successful. We launched it last year in August, and then so we'll have every other month. We have one coming shortly. So if you have any entrepreneur friends, they want to come and practice that. The advantage is one of them who wins. I mean, who is mostly there are 3 to 4 VCs here who provide feedback and recommendations. So one of them who is selected will go directly in front of Thai Angels. So that's the prize. And the third one we launched was, one program I launched was My Story program last year in March. Mainly it's about any entrepreneur who has successfully exited his company over the last 12 to 18 months with a substantial amount or has gone public. So we have had almost 10 of them every month come here, all kinds folks. And in fact, we have one on next Tuesday, and this is an entrepreneur, Anand Babu. His company was Gluster, which was an open source storage software company, and these guys didn't have any background in storage. And if you know any of the folks know about storage people, they are interesting people. Right? Meaning it's like very so you wouldn't think open source guys storage. These guys did it and they wanted to disrupt the market. Red Hat bought them for over 140 or 50 million. So he will be coming here on Tuesday and speaking about how they built that company over 3 to 4 years. And so please make sure you register. So that's and we'll be also introducing some new programs. So if you have any other ideas or you would like to see, please feel free to reach out to me later on, or Patricia or anyone, give me any feedback. With that, what I would like to do is now introduce our co-chairs for this cloud program. There is Alvin Sequeira. He's the VP and CTO for Security and Network Services at VMware, and I think you probably know about VMware, some of you. So, and then Pradeep Shankar, he's a Vice President at Ericsson right over here and has been an entrepreneur himself. Just a few words on Alvin. He used to call himself a startup junkie until a few years ago, and since he's been at VMware for over, I think, 3 years. So now I think, I don't know whether that name, but maybe at some point he might go back, because he's been founder of companies like FVC with Ralph Ungerman. Some of you know, he was one of the Ungerman Bosch Networks, one of the early networking companies. He was co-founder and CTO in mid-90s. Then after that, Blue Lane, which actually became the foundation for the security for VMware. So he was the executive VP and CTO there. And then a number of other companies. I used to call him that he was like the Excel Jim Swartz kind of disciple. So Jim Swartz used to just say, go join there and he'll be there. Anyway, so Alvin, and with he's very busy and really appreciate his being here. And the same thing with Pradeep, very busy. And even after that, these guys give a lot of their valuable time for this and really appreciate it very much. And with that, let's give a big round of applause to even our highly accomplished panelists and our co-chairs.
Thank you, Naveen. As Naveen mentioned, my name is Pradeep Shankar. I'm co-chair of the CloudSig at TIE, and my day job is at Ericsson, part of their technology strategy and industry group. My other co-chair is Alvin, and Alvin is not off the hook tonight. We are going to get him onto the panel later during the discussion section. It's great to see this turnout. This is the 4th cloud event that we have had as part of CloudSig. One was on hot startups from the last TICON. One was on big data. One was on SDN, or software-defined networking, and this one, of course, is cloud security. We have a fantastic panel for you today. We'll do introductions in a second. But let me tell you a little bit about the motivation for this particular subject and talk why we are doing this talk on cloud security. If you, 2011, there were over 500 data breaches and 30 million security sensitive records were stolen in 2011. And this is just the public piece of it. This is what's known publicly. There's probably a lot more happening. Whenever you talk about cloud, and cloud adoption, security comes up as a major, major concern. So, if you've been tracking cloud computing over the years, the analysts typically put out a chart on what are the different barriers to cloud adoption, and invariably, security shows up as one of the top concerns. And year after year after year, security shows up as a top concern. In spite of all the wonderful work our expert panelists have been doing in the security space, it does show up. So just to illustrate this point, I just have one slide. I was going to do no slides as well, Cal, but then I gave in and did one slide. So this is a survey of enterprise users about cloud adoption, and what the survey did was categorize the users the respondents into believers and unconvinced, and as well as unfamiliar. And then they were asked to look at both not only their cloud, adopting cloud services, but also what they thought of their own private data centers, and that was the survey, and assess the security risk. Some key takeaways: whether you're a believer or not, security is a huge concern. Okay, but if you're unconvinced, okay, your fear about security is a third more likely than if you were a believer. But if it is your own private data center, you are a third more likely to believe that everything is okay. It's not susceptible. So if you think about it from a cloud adoption standpoint, the barrier is pretty huge. You believe that your own stuff is great, and you believe that the cloud is insecure. Okay, so that's why this is a very, very important topic for us. Transitioning to a cloud infrastructure is hugely complex, and there are lots of different issues which our panelists are going to talk about. Loss of control, much more attack area, and so on. But if you think about it, not all of the data breaches that I talked about had anything to do with the cloud. By the end of the session today, you should have a pretty good idea of what the security landscape looks like and what the challenges are. And aspiring entrepreneurs in the audience, of course, those challenges are opportunities for you. Okay? So in terms of the format, what we're going to do is just to get everybody baseline, each of the panelists will have a short presentation, some with slides, some without slides. We'll have a mix, and then we'll get into the discussion piece, and then Q&A with the audience. To start with, we'll do Tim Mather is Director of Enterprise Security at KPMG, and he's going to give us an overview of security. Then we'll have Becky Swain, who is co-founder of the Cloud Security Alliance, and she'll talk to us about standardization, which is actually pretty crucial to manage expectations between users and providers. Caleb Seema, who is EIR with Anderson Horowitz, is going to talk about cloud vulnerabilities. And then Ratinder is going to talk about what they're doing at McAfee Intel from a platform standpoint to address those vulnerabilities. And then Ryan is going to talk about, he's with Storm Ventures, and is going to talk about what's hot, what they're seeing, and what gives us the VC perspective. So that's kind of the panel that we're doing. Let's start with a round of intros. So Tim, just 1 to 2 minutes, and yourself so that the audience knows who's addressing them.
Good evening. My name again is Tim Mather. I am an advisory director with KPMG. I'm in the Information Protection Group, and I focus on cloud security. I've been in the Valley for a number of years, and I am an information security practitioner by background. I have run enterprise organizations, information security organizations at Apple, VeriSign, and Symantec, and was previously a chief security strategist at RSA as well.
Hi, I'm Becky Swain. I'm one of the founding members of the Cloud Security Alliance, specifically a co-founder and current chair of what's called the Cloud Controls Matrix. Essentially, the Cloud Controls Matrix is a baseline set of controls mapped to either a cloud provider or cloud customer, being a tenant in that environment, and how it relates to a particular service delivery model. And those controls are baselined, essentially the superset, if you will, of other compliance requirements that you'll find that the cloud providers are faced with, and that's PCI, ISO 27001, HIPAA, High Tech Act, etc. and I have a number of other hats within the CSA. Along with Naveen and Tim, I'm one of the board members of the local Silicon Valley chapter. I also frequent conferences speaking on behalf of the CSA, talking about the work that we're doing, the research, the standards development efforts. I'm also a member, actually a security SIG for a new nonprofit organization, the Cloud Network of Women. And during my day job, I am a consultant on cloud security assurance.
Hi, I'm Caleb Sima. My background, I've been in security since I've been a kid, way back 12 years old, but my official start of my career was I started a company called ISS, Internet Security Systems. If you guys are familiar with that, way back in the day, like in 96, 97, and I was one of those kids that wrote exploits and published advisories. I did that for quite a while until ISS grew too big and became nice and big and corporate. And then I started my own company called Spy Dynamics, and we created this product called Web Inspect that kind of shows you all the vulnerabilities in websites and applications. And at this time, like, vulnerabilities in web applications were completely unknown. In fact, our company published one of the first white papers on SQL injection, if you guys are familiar with that, back in the day. Ran that for a couple of years, and it grew very successful, and HP came along and bought us. And I then became CTO of application security for HP for around 3 years. And then since then, I've been hanging out at Andreessen Horowitz, kind of learning the VC back end of the things and kind of looking at really interesting companies. So that's my background.
My name is Ryan Floyd. I'm a managing director at Storm Ventures. Storm's an early stage, seed-focused venture firm. I started back in 2000, so I've been doing this now for about 12 years. We've been investing in security since the very beginning. Early on with companies like a company called Net Forensics that does security information management. And I've continued to do so over the years. A company called Kidaro that did desktop virtualization that was sold to Microsoft. That a big piece of that solution was about security. And we're actively investing today around really three main areas: cloud, including cloud security, mobile, and SaaS.
Hi, I'm Ratinder Ahuja, currently the CTO and Vice President for network security products within McAfee. I got into McAfee because I had a company called Reconyx that I was founder CTO for, and doing data loss prevention, so hip-hop PCI, all those things that I just mentioned. And about 20 odd years ago when I started my career, I used to work for Alvin, and he must have injected me with the startup serum. So my first startup was acquired by Cisco back in '95, and then I did another startup called WebStacks, got acquired by Extreme Networks, and then Reconyx got acquired by McAfee, so part of the crowd here, see that.
Thank you. Tim, all yours. You want to do the pitch?
I'm going to stand because I like to stand and I don't want to block the screen here, so I'm not going to use that podium microphone. So I have a few slides here at a general. So anyway, a couple slides at a sort of a general level, if you will, and the fact that I realize that unlike myself, who's been doing information security, frankly, my entire working career, many of you have not. So I'm going to keep this at a general level. That said, I'm going to make some very provocative statements here, which you should consider to be fodder for questions and discussion. That's me, co-author of this. By the way, I have a copy of the book here with me tonight, and the most insightful question from you, the audience, gets that copy for free this evening. So feel free to ask questions. I'm encouraging you to. So let's review the definition as defined in the dictionary of break. Okay? Break doesn't necessarily mean that the technology somehow becomes broken. It means it becomes inoperable for the intended use of it. Now, I'm giving you this definition because, in my opinion, here's my provocative statement number one, is that there are several security technologies which have been used in the enterprise for many years, which frankly are broken in the cloud. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily broken because they no longer work. It means they no longer work in the cloud. Quite honestly, they simply cannot scale to the cloud. These 5 technologies, frankly, barely scale to the enterprise level, and that's arguable in unto itself, but they certainly do not scale, in my opinion, to the cloud scale level, and therefore I consider these to be broken. As an information security practitioner, I look at these 5 technologies and I see a problem. For many people in this audience, you should look at this slide and see opportunities. Okay? All of these need to be addressed, and I would hope that some of you are thinking about ways to address them. Okay? Looking forward a couple of years, okay, to me, I can already see that you have some winners and losers that are beginning to emerge because of the cloud. And when it comes to products, in the short term, I believe that virtual private SaaS is a clear winner here. So for those of you who are familiar, here's some example companies here. What this is a way to use essentially a gateway encryption appliance to put sensitive data into the cloud so that it is encrypted in the cloud, or at least somehow protected, obfuscated, masked, whatever the case might be, so that that cloud service provider, who you may or may not trust but you happen to use, cannot see the data, and yet you remain in control of the data. Think as well about various privacy regulations around the world as well. Okay? Big data platforms. Okay? An awful lot of companies are beginning to use big data for their own purposes. Even the San Francisco Giants use big data when they're selling their tickets. Okay? They do not use static pricing of tickets anymore. It is now done on a dynamic basis. And so the San Francisco Giants figure in such things as the won-loss record of their opponents, the day of the week the game will be held, the weather forecast for that day, et cetera, and come up with dynamic pricing. Well, I look at things like that of what companies are doing, and I think, why is the security community not using big data for its own purposes? We have a huge amount of data that is logged. Frankly, most of it never gets reviewed, it never gets analyzed, and to me that's a big waste. So I look at these big data security platforms as a clear winner here as well. Red Lambda looks good. I give them a demerit though because they're on a proprietary platform. I look at somebody like Splunk right here in San Francisco and think this is a good thing. And I think that these products will clearly be a winner in the marketplace in the short term. For SIEM, security, incident and event management, of which there are many companies in the marketplace here, one of them on the panel, one of them whom I used to work for. I was CISO there for 7 years. I think these products, they barely scale to the enterprise, quite honestly, and again, they break when it comes to the cloud. I see SIEM as a big loser when it comes to the products in the cloud. Don't invest there, my recommendation. For job roles, if any of you are young enough or have kids perhaps who are in that cage who think that they are going to be sysadmins or DBAs, I don't see any of those positions going anywhere. Okay? Everything is about the fabric. It's about getting humans out of the loop. And by the way, as we get more and more big data, meaning NoSQL data, NoSQL databases do not have schemas. Why do they need DBAs? So I wouldn't be thinking about that as career advancement for myself, or certainly not career safety. If you're a data scientist and you're pouring through all that big data and you're really good at math and know how to write algorithms to find the data, the information that you're looking for in all those masses of data, come see me. Okay? I think that these people have a huge career potential there. So that's a little bit about my prognostication as far as my crystal ball in the cloud is concerned when it comes to products and when it comes to jobs. There are several food fights which are either underway or which will soon be underway, which will have a major impact either directly or indirectly on the cloud. And these have to be factored into it. So whether you're an information security practitioner, whether you are an entrepreneur, you need to be keeping your eyes out for these food fights. The telcos, not just Verizon and AT&T in the United States moving into this space. Verizon, AT&T, they look at the fact that their voice data is going to nothing. They look at the fact that other than SMS message traffic, their data revenue is declining, and they eye these big cloud service providers, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, and think, I want a slice of that pie. And they're spending billions to move into the cloud, the cloud space. Now, they're really good at running networks. The question is, can they actually run the apps, if you will, and keep customers happy? Okay? And it's not just in the United States. I look at the agreement, the strategic partnership between Deutsche Telekom and Huawei, which is expected to yield $100 billion just in the Chinese enterprise market alone. Okay? We're talking real money. The telcos are eyeing this and they want in on this. So that food fight is already underway. Also already underway, Vivian Redding has put out an update to the European Data Protection Directive. Okay? And it is, just so I make sure that I've got the wording correctly here. Pardon me. The General Data Protection Regulation, just released at the end of November. Essentially what she is doing is not only updating the European Data Protection Directive, it's also indirectly regulating cloud computing. Now the mainstream media has so far focused on the consumer's right to be forgotten. That's not what this thing is about, okay? Now the right to be forgotten, so to speak, will certainly impact those cloud service providers which are providing services to consumers, okay? But within that document, 160 odd pages of it, Chapter 5, transfer of data to third countries or international organizations, okay? This is safe harbor all over again. This is a very blatant food fight, and quite honestly, the Europeans are being very blatant in saying to the Americans, you know what? Your USA Patriot Act stinks. We don't want any part of it, and we don't want our data going to you or to your cloud service providers. We want to keep that data here in the United States. So that food fight is already underway. Now, Vivian Redding can propose that, and she has, but it has to go before the EU members to be ratified. So now the food fight really begins. In December, in Dubai, the ITOT will be making a move to effectively put ICON under UN control. Okay? Many of the member nations of the UN think, we don't want those Americans, those pesky, slimy Americans controlling the internet any longer. We want it under UN control. Okay? This is particularly true for the BRICS, and especially for India and Brazil. Okay? It will be very interesting to see what Russia and China do as well, but look for the ITUT to at least make a move to take over ICON and put that organization under UN control. Here in the United States, net neutrality, if the Republicans were to win, and I doubt that they will, both the White House and the Senate, probably one of the first things they would do is get rid of net neutrality. Okay? Already gone on the wireless space. They want it gone on the wired space as well, or vice versa, pardon me on that. But that is a big hit, and that will be a big food fight. The Democrats have been holding fast on that, but this being an election year, I'm not sure if you'll see that food fight actually begin now or until after the presidential election in November. CALEA, which deals for the, Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act. This dates back to 1994, signed by, at that time, Bill Clinton. And this is mandating on the telcos that they have a back door in which their switches can be wiretapped so that they can monitor people who need to be monitored or who they actually get a warrant or subpoena for. Okay? At that time, 1994, the internet was nascent, and the internet was explicitly exempted from CALEA controls. Okay? The Obama administration has already floated a trial balloon and sent to Congress some draft regulations on how CALEA would be expanded to internet companies so that any messaging that went over the internet would also be subject to CALEA requirements. Okay? So if you thought that SOPA and PIPA last week was a food fight, you haven't seen anything yet. Okay? That was a kindergarten's brawl compared to what CALEA 2 would be. This will be huge. Okay? If you thought that that was big news that Silicon Valley went after Hollywood, wait until you see this one. This will be a major brawl. Now, I think that the administration actually learned something last week with, actually, if you will, I'm going to call it the internet uprising against that legislation on that PIPA and SOPA. But if this were to go forward, and I'm not sure now that it will before the election, this will be a major food fight. But again, all 5 of these will either have direct or indirect impact on the cloud and specifically around the security of the cloud. Okay? So Those are my provocative statements. I hope that you'll ask plenty of questions. I don't think that, as far as Naveen has told me, you're not a bashful audience. So go ahead and ask, and with that said, I'll shut down and turn it over to Bob.
I think I'm going to do the same. Stand up. So can I get a quick raise of hands? Who's familiar with the Cloud Security Alliance? Not bad. About 30% of you. So I'm going to talk about some of the standards efforts going on in the cloud security space and what CSA is doing in that regard. Go ahead and go to the next slide. You want to lend me my clicker? And you know, I just bought one. All right. So a bit about the Cloud Security Alliance. It's a global nonprofit organization. 29,000 individual members, 120 corporate members, 60 chapters. And as I had mentioned earlier in the quick intro, 3 of us here in this room are board members of the local chapter. It's really about building best practices around the trusted cloud ecosystem, and I'll talk more about that ecosystem in a minute around standards. Really, we take an agile approach to development and research development. In fact, I can give you a case where we implemented a version of the Cloud Controls Matrix in literally 6 weeks. Concurrently, there were 3 updates to standards that we were aligning against. So it's a very agile environment. And currently, we've just kicked off an update to align ourselves to the new release of the FedRAMP security controls for the federal government. But really, it's about balancing compliance and risk management in the cloud, really at the end of the day ensuring that the customer and the cloud provider are speaking the same language around risk. So let me see if I can give you or articulate the problem space that we're dealing with today. So with cloud comes an ecosystem. Some have coined the term cloud in a cloud, where you've got new SaaS applications being built on PaaS or IaaS applications, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. And then there are potentially other intermediary companies involved in the delivery of that service, the managing the orchestration of the various parts that really produce the solution to the end customer. And as you guys are aware, supplier risk management is not new. It's been around for many years. However, with the fact that you've got many players, many stakeholders in the cloud solution model, the problem is only exacerbated. So you can imagine one customer has a PCI requirement. Another customer may have a FISMA requirement, but they all want to use the same IaaS provider. What should the IaaS cloud provider do? Do they do all of them? Do they do one of them? Well, it's a tough decision, and really unified GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, is the best way to handle this. And what we did with the Cloud Controls Matrix is really create a baseline set of controls so that there were only incremental adjustments made to deal with these other sectoral-based or regulatory-based control requirements or frameworks. So let's go on to the next one. So just to kind of look at what CSA is doing today, there's a number of activities: assessment, user certifications, best practices, provider assessments, procurement, and standards. And I highlighted that because this is what we're going to talk about today. Today, the cloud standards landscape is quite vast. In fact, what you'll find with many of them is they're inventorying what everyone else is doing, because there's a lot of efforts in this space. Obviously, the CSA is very much focused in the security space as opposed to other standards like virtualization. There's primarily 3 groups that CSA is heavily involved with. In fact, I'm one of the co-editors with a new ISO standard for supplier risk management, part of which being a cloud standard. But we're working with NIST, ISO, IEC, 2 groups within ISO, and then the ITUT. So within NIST, the federal government, this is really kind of the US focus of the standards work. You've got a lot of activity happening where we've aligned the guidance document with much of the definitions coming out of NIST. You've got some of the standards around SCAP and XCCDF, which are going to be feeding into solutions like CTP. So just to kind of give you a summary of what we've got going on here, we've got the guidance document, which I encourage you to download if you want to kind of get a nice overview on a lot of the best practices around security, risk management in the cloud, and governance. And then what you have is a thing called the GRC stack. The Cloud Controls Matrix is essentially the fundamental aspect of that. Beyond that, we've got a questionnaire that a customer can use to assess a vendor. It's called the Consensus Assessment Initiative Questionnaire, aka CAKE. We've got this thing called Cloud Audit, which is essentially a format by which you can express how you comply with the Cloud Controls Matrix online in a very transparent manner. And then you've got this thing called Cloud Trust Protocol, which is really about using standards like SCAP and XCCDF and being able to have real-time monitoring against vulnerabilities and compliance with software configurations, so that if I'm a customer and I want to understand how a provider is really managing their environment from a risk perspective, I have some real-time data to get some of those answers. And then with that, you've got these 3 standards that have been produced, or these publications that are produced by NIST that CSA has adopted as a standard, as a de facto standard. With the ISO IEC, the area, there's really 2 groups that we're focused on. The first one is around the whole 27,000 series standards. If you're familiar with an ISO certification, security certification, it's really that body, that family of standards, of which we're engaged in the risk management piece, supplier risk management piece. And we're using some of the guidance and the requirements and controls that we have developed within CSA and feeding that into the process as contributions to influence what the outcome of those standards will be. As well as looking at the other group, which is SC38, and they're really about taxonomy. So in our support for NIST and how they've defined this taxonomy around cloud, we are also supporting that and contributing to what those standards look like from a definition, usage, value perspective. 2 minutes. Sorry, I had to convert 30 slides into 3, so I'm doing my best to make it short. So with this other organization, ITU2, and really what's important about ITU is treaties, EU treaties, from the Geneva Convention come out of this standards organization. So aligning ourselves with them will hopefully in the long run influence new regulations and encouraging the global economy to work in the cloud space. And really there's 2 groups that are focused in this area. There's a focus group around cloud and then telecom security that really works very closely with the 27,000 family of standards coming out of ISO. And again, we're using all of the work coming out of the CSA to feed into those controls and those standards so that they ultimately, we can help drive what the outcome of these will look like. And really this is about the Cloud Security Alliance. We encourage you all to get involved. In fact, there's gonna be an innovation initiative announced at RSA that you should watch for. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to sit because I actually have no presentation to give. So I'm supposed to sort of give a short blurb on vulnerabilities in the cloud. And this is a viewpoint that probably may not be so popular, but I challenge people to figure out, minus hypervisor exploits, which I can kind of consider cloud-based, is there a vulnerability that's really cloud vulnerability? There's nothing. In fact, when I look at the vulnerabilities and security issues throughout the years, over from the 90s all the way up to today, they really haven't changed. It's the same problems just being implemented in new technologies with the same issues. When I look at cloud, the way I see everybody talks about security and everybody talks about security of the cloud, it's primarily because of two reasons. One, you don't have control of your data anymore, so there's a loss of control, which freaks people out, because you have to trust, and you don't trust if you don't have transparency, which is number two. They just don't know what you're doing with your data or how you're handling that data. But I would also argue the point that I find in many businesses the cloud is more secure than what you would be doing normally in your enterprise. And there are many, many reasons and factors for that. And the aspect of whenever I've done things, I've gone in or breaking in to a company, into a corporation, the number one reason why I can get into something is generally based off of human mistakes. It's a collaboration of all of these things that people have forgotten about, screwed around with, or done something with, that you've been able to wiggle your way in order to get somewhere. While with cloud, when you look at things like Salesforce, ultimately, what are you going to do? There are probably some people who can get into Salesforce, but they're very far and few between. And they make extra effort in order to do things in order to secure Salesforce. So if I'm going into your system, but you have disparate sales tracking information across multiple enterprises, that makes it more convenient for a hacker, because I know that the software that you're running is probably disparate or could be an older version, or whoever set it up or managed it made a lot of mistakes when they set it up and managed it, and that makes the attack surface for me much better when it comes to things. So when it comes to specifically cloud vulnerabilities, I don't see any. I don't see anything that's specific to cloud. When I look at all the hype about cloud and security, I just think of it as those two things, because honestly, for an attacker, the difference is not really much, except the fact that if I can break into a cloud provider, I get access to more data than I normally would in an aspect of an enterprise. But at the end of the day, I don't see any differences in vulnerabilities or exploits. And that's the end.
So I'll take about the next 5 minutes and walk through the cloud security as we see it at McAfee Intel, and what solutions do we have, and what are the challenges. And as the panelists pointed out, there are a lot of problems as you take things that work or targeted for the enterprise and try to scale them out into the cloud. And so the same themes that you mentioned are also going to be repeated here. The CS has done a great job. You should go read their documents on this cloud security model. It helps put a framework around how people think about security, so it's a really great set of documents. It will bring out some of the issues, and it gives a nice framework on how to look at those problems, and what solutions do we have, and what directions we're looking at. Again, this is from the CSA model. They look at security in two domains: governance and operations. So governance has things like risk management, discovery, compliance and audit, data loss prevention, and operations is at the infrastructure level, denial of service attacks, data center operations, incident response management, and so forth. Now, each one of them is a broad area with many, many technologies and products and opportunities in those. One of those same standards arranges security issues roughly along these vectors. Covers everything from infrastructure to computation, virtualization, risk management, all the way into applications. Now, the same problems exist in the enterprise, right? So this model is not different. And there's a slew of technologies that solve that today. Some of them are very specific to virtualization. For example, there's a technology that McAfee has called Move. And what that does is it embeds some of the security scanning capabilities at the hypervisor level, and work with hypervisor providers to allow that. And what that does is it lets you scale virtual instances without having to have the same scanning being done by 100 different instances, right? So there's a lot of interesting things that we're doing to accommodate some of these capabilities. And on the far right, you'll see things that are connecting into applications, gateways that look at information flows, data loss prevention looks at information flows, activity monitoring systems, DAM and FAM are terms that are used to monitor activity. Those go into application information flows. So there's a model and a set of solutions that go along to provide security. So the problem is, how does this go into the cloud? So as we hit the cloud, scale, on-demand, virtualization, elasticity, all these put a lot of pressure on the the solutions that exist today.